10. Zachary Moellendick and Krista Lay. In early 2019, 23-year-old Zachary Moellendick and 24-year-old Krista Lay were caught stealing $51 worth of jewelry and baby toys from a Walmart in Fort Pierce, Florida. Store security called the police, and Officer Doug McNeil arrested the couple after reporting to the scene and observing them. Moellendick was using crutches at the time, so McNeil didn't handcuff him. Lay was originally handcuffed behind her back, but was recuffed in the front so she could smoke a cigarette. The pair were then put into the back of McNeil's squad car and taken to the St. Lucie County Jail. Police cam footage showed the couple kissing and cuddling during the drive. When they arrived at the jail's Sally Port, McNeil reportedly allowed Lay and Moellendick to smoke another cigarette. They were told to do so inside the patrol car, as the jail wouldn't allow them to smoke outside. And according to an internal affairs report, it was evident based on their body posture and arm movements that their behavior got even steamier after they smoked. A female officer nearby saw what was going on and raised the alarm to her superiors. McNeil said that he didn't think there was anything wrong with kissing and cuddling, and claimed that he didn't observe any signs of things going any further than that. But Lay and Moellendick admitted to investigators that they had, in fact, done things that are definitely not considered appropriate to do in the back seat of a police car. McNeil was subsequently suspended without pay for 20 days for violating multiple police policies. 9. William Parrish Jr. and Mackenzie Dobbs. After receiving several reports of drug overdoses in the city of Ocala in 2018, police carried out a search warrant at the mobile home of suspected drug dealers, William Parrish Jr. and Mackenzie Dobbs. During the raid, they discovered that the pair had turned their kitchen window into a drive-through for their customers, presumably to avoid the unwanted attention that might have come with people constantly entering and exiting their home. There were also signs for customers directing them to the window and specifying whether it was open or closed. Ocala Police Captain Stephen Cuddy told WFTV that the discovery came on the heels of several overdoses that occurred, not only in the general area, but at the specific location that they searched. At the trailer, officers found heroin laced with fentanyl. Authorities charged Parrish with driving under the influence, keeping a dwelling used to sell drugs, possession of drugs with intent to sell, and resisting arrest without violence. Dobbs was charged with keeping a dwelling used to sell drugs, possession of drugs with intent to sell, possession of fentanyl, and possession of fentanyl with intent to sell. Shortly after the arrests, Parrish's father told WFTV that the claims about the overdoses were lies, and that his son had recently been working to get his life together. 8. Mary and Oxyus, Dorsainville. In early 2022, a man was allegedly lured to a Miami apartment by his friend, 52-year-old Mary Dorsainville, who'd contacted him and asked him for a ride to her home. According to a police report, Dorsainville invited him inside, but he said it was a bad idea because they were both married to other people. Dorsainville reportedly said her husband was out of town, so the man agreed to go inside. When he sat down on the couch, an accomplice to Mary named Oxyus Dorsainville entered the room with a gun and bound the victim's hands and legs with chains. The Dorsainvilles allegedly forced the victim to rehearse and record a statement, admitting that he'd cheated on his wife with Mary. They were also accused of telling the man that if he went to the bathroom, they'd force him to eat it at gunpoint, and would shoot him if he refused. The pair offered the victim food the next day, but he declined because he worried that it would make him go to the bathroom. They also demanded a $50,000 ransom, which the man said he couldn't afford. He agreed to sign over the title to his vehicle in exchange for his release. On the third day of being held hostage, the victim was forced to shower at gunpoint. His captors then said they were finally going to free him. But first, they forced him to drink a bottle of rum mixed with bleach, so that he seemed drunk if the police pulled them over. It would give the captors the excuse that they were driving the victim home because he was intoxicated. The victim later told police that he pretended to be drunk and unconscious during the drive. But when he opened his eyes 20 minutes later, his kidnappers were gone. Bystanders then called the police for him, and he was taken to the hospital. Authorities charged the Dorsainvilles with kidnapping, armed robbery with a deadly weapon, attempted second-degree murder, and extortion. Just days later, they were accused of kidnapping another man. At the time, authorities said they suspected that there may be other victims, and encouraged anyone else who may have been abducted to come forward. 7. Rainier Fuentes and Lillian Dominguez. Deputies in Monroe County received an unusual call one day in July of 2022 from a woman who'd received text messages from an unknown number demanding a $1,000 ransom in exchange for the return of her husband's service dog. The French bulldog, named Sailor, had gotten out of the couple's house in Marathon City earlier that day. After searching the neighborhood and posting on Facebook with no luck, Sailor's owners were left with no choice but to wait and hope for the pup's safe return. The woman agreed to hand over the $1,000 and planned to meet with the stranger demanding the ransom in Miami. But the dog napper made things complicated by changing the meeting location several times, and then saying that they wanted to keep Sailor. They finally agreed to meet at a mall though, but little did they know, the Miami-Dade police were aware of the situation and accompanied the woman to the location. Officers took 33-year-old Rainier Fuentes and 26-year-old Lillian Dominguez into custody on suspicion of grand theft, dealing in stolen property, and use of a two-way communication device to facilitate a felony. Thankfully, Sailor was unharmed and was reunited with his family in the end. 6. Jose Padilla Torres and Aracelis Hernandez Santiago. It's unclear what led to a heated verbal disagreement between 44-year-old Jose Padilla Torres and another man at a gas station in Winter Haven, Florida in 2022. Surveillance footage showed Torres going into the store while 44-year-old Aracelis Hernandez Santiago waited in his car at a gas pump. In the video, Torres could be seen exiting the store and yelling at a man whose car was parked at the opposite side of the pump, prompting the man to walk over to see what Torres was saying. Torres responded by grabbing an aluminum bat out of his car and hitting the man with it. According to an arrest report, the victim managed to block the hit and took Torres to the ground. Santiago exited the car, grabbed the bat, and started swinging it at the man, whose girlfriend rushed over and stopped Santiago from hitting him. After returning to his car with Santiago, Torres allegedly threw the vehicle into reverse and rammed into the man. He tried to run the victim over 2 more times, but missed. So he drove into the man's car and left the scene. The victim and his girlfriend also drove away, and another altercation broke out when the parties ended up at the same intersection. Law enforcement was called to the scene, where they took Torres into custody on 2 counts of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and criminal mischief. Santiago was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, but because this case is so recent, an outcome has yet to be decided. 5. Madison Megural and Stephen Solstad. After going to the Key West home of 31-year-old Stephen Solstad to smoke some weed one day in 2021, a 50-year-old man found himself feeling more impaired than he expected. He fell asleep in his car, only to wake up to Solstad and his girlfriend, 22-year-old Madison Megural, getting into the vehicle and forcing him into the passenger seat. According to the victim, Solstad punched him, threatened him with a razor, and held him captive for more than 30 hours. He gave them $150, but it apparently wasn't enough to satisfy the couple, who took him through a bank drive-thru and ordered him to withdraw money. But the victim didn't have his ID on him, so the bank wouldn't let him take any cash out. Solstad then allegedly drove to the victim's home, where he and Megural stole clothes, electronics, and other items. They were accused of forcing the man to do drugs, so he remained incapacitated. After about a day, the suspects finally left the residence in the victim's car. Unsure of what drugs he'd been forced to take, the man sought medical help and went to the police. Solstad and Megural were apprehended in Palm Beach County and were charged with kidnapping, aggravated assault, grand theft, robbery, and grand theft of a motor vehicle. Unfortunately, there have been no recent updates on the case. 4. Stephen Lopez and Angela Viviana Velez Vazquez. While working as a taxi driver in Marathon City early one morning in 2023, 31-year-old Stephen Lopez met a 29-year-old woman who caught his eye. At the time, he was in an open relationship with his girlfriend, 20-year-old Angela Viviana Velez Vazquez. So he invited the woman back to their home for some fun with him and Velez Vazquez, and the woman obliged. Things got ugly during the impromptu romp, however, when the couple tried to dominate their guest. The woman responded with insults about certain body parts that people, especially men, generally don't take too kindly to. Lopez then allegedly grabbed her by the hair before Velez Vazquez threw her outside. According to a police report, the woman fell on the ground, and Velez Vazquez approached her and began punching her in the eye. The victim also accused Lopez of hitting her. As she got into her car to leave, a cinder block came crashing through her rear window. Lopez and Velez Vazquez reportedly claimed that they asked the guest to leave, but she refused, so they forced her out of the home. The couple claimed that Lopez threw the cinder block after the woman had hit one of them while reversing in her car, then exited her vehicle and swung at Velez Vazquez. To make a bizarre situation even weirder, the victim parked her car down the street and called the police, only to tell responding officers that Lopez and Velez Vazquez weren't the people who hit her, but that she wanted to press charges. The couple turned themselves in shortly thereafter, stating that they were, in fact, the ones who hit the woman. Authorities charged Lopez with throwing a deadly missile, while Velez Vazquez was charged with battery. At the moment, their cases appear to be ongoing. 3. Antonio Murdoch and Brianna Greco. After boarding an Atlanta-bound Delta flight at LaGuardia Airport in New York City in 2020, a Florida couple deployed the emergency escape chute and slid down it with their Great Dane. 31-year-old Antonio Murdoch and 23-year-old Brianna Greco were taken into custody on suspicion of mischief, criminal trespass, and reckless endangerment. And the couple's dog, Rain, was taken to an animal shelter in Brooklyn. After being arraigned at Queens Criminal Court, Murdoch told the press that he had no criminal intent and denied the charges. He said that he suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and that confined spaces trigger his anxiety. As the plane headed toward the runway, Murdoch had a panic attack, but employees allegedly refused to let him and Greco get off the plane. He said he asked 3 or 4 times before opening the cabin door, and that he didn't realize it would activate the emergency slide. The incident happened during a verbal altercation between Murdoch and staff members, causing the more than 100 passengers on the plane to go into a panic. The rest of the passengers were then taken off the plane and accommodated with different flights. Murdoch and Greco were released pending the outcome of their cases and were reunited with Rain. As they walked away from the animal shelter, Murdoch told the New York Post that they were in an emotional state and that they wanted to be left alone. 2. Ronald Mayer and Linda Donahue. While watching the Kelly Clarkson Show in Clearwater, Florida, the day before New Year's Eve in 2022, 61-year-old Linda Donahue punched her partner, 55-year-old Ronald Mayer, in the shoulder to quiet him down because he was annoying her. According to an arrest affidavit, Mayer retaliated by climbing on top of Donahue and punching her in the face. A responding officer observed a red mark and swelling on Donahue's face and asked Mayer about it. He said that he was just trying to get Donahue to calm down and that he was unaware of the mark on her face. In his report, the officer noted that both parties seemed intoxicated and that it caused inconsistencies in their statements. The pair had reportedly been romantically involved for around 14 years. Neither Mayer nor Donahue had any prior arrests or convictions before the incident. They were both taken into custody on suspicion of misdemeanor mutual domestic battery. After being kept in jail overnight, the couple were released pending the outcome of the case. The judge ordered them to stay away from each other, forcing them to cancel any plans they may have had to spend New Year's Eve together. 1. Martin Gonzalez Garcia and Ashi Roldan Ocasio. While squatting at a house in Kissimmee, Florida in 2023, Ashi Roldan Ocasio made a blank 911 call. Deputies tracked the location of the call and found her at the home with her boyfriend, Martin Gonzalez Garcia. Roldan Ocasio told the responding deputies that she dialed 911 to ask for help with moving the couple's belongings out of the house. She also said that she was hoping they'd give her and Gonzalez Garcia a ride to the airport so they could travel to New York for the weekend. The pair were likely unaware that law enforcement had been looking for them after they were allegedly seen stealing $138 worth of merchandise from a local Dollar General store. According to a Facebook post by the Polk County Sheriff's Office, the deputies gladly helped the couple with their belongings and gave them a ride, but not to the airport. Instead, they were taken to jail. Gonzalez Garcia reportedly confessed to stealing from Dollar General, saying that he needed money and planned to sell the stolen goods. He admitted that he knew what he did was wrong, but that he needed the money and that he and Roldan Ocasio broke into the house in Kissimmee because they needed to get out of the cold for the night. Authorities charged Gonzalez Garcia with burglary, theft, and burglary of a residence. Roldan Ocasio, on the other hand, was only charged with burglary of a residence. Would you rather narrowly escape a kidnapping attempt by a suspicious couple on the first night of a Florida vacation, but have nothing else go wrong, or deal with constant rain the entire trip? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.